getting darker and darker, and there's just no way right now for these drivers to know exactly what's going to happen.
These guys are going to have to be really, really careful and tiptoe around the track until it's either stopped.
And not even 10 minutes into this race, and I feel like we've got enough strategy going on for a whole event, but still a long, long way to go.
There's Yellowstone, there's Yosemite, but for racing fans and for Grid Life's Elkhart Classic, the destination is Road America, the National Park of Speed. Free ride in the front of the field here. Look at Emil Tab up the inside for the race lead. We head down to the first corner.
And these guys have no idea what they're coming into. Look at this field. They're 2 wide, 3 wide, a couple places slipping.
Side by side for the race lead, 54, 48 through 3 and 4, working lap number 60, 110 laps to go. Yusuf Ghali, power move to the bottom of the racetrack, making the short wave work. They're going to touch down the hill.
This will be a great run for Fuller here. Yeah, typically we'll ran off the track in the final quarter. That'll allow Fuller to get a massive.
Here he comes.
Does he have a look?
Oh, big block here by Sanfilippo. Into the grass goes Ben Fuller for turn 1, and Sanfilippo hangs on. He's loose. No! And he crashes hard in the exit of turn number 2. Don't try here, boys. They're going to do it. Gritsko backs out. They touch. They're going to crash. Gritsko going to slam the attenuator hard into the wall, and Jared Tesson hits him as well. And big damage on these cars. That's huge.
More people are struggling for grip, going out of every single lane, even trying to then run. It's getting really insane.
Powered by AWS for the Intercontinental GT Challenge, powered by Pirelli at the Indianapolis 8-hour. We are 7 hours and 18 minutes into this 8-hour event.
John Miller way deep on the brakes to the inside of turn number 1 and 2. The spin, the 3-car gets turned around in front of the car.
James Houghton looking for a place to go, but he's got Austin Cobb to the inside. Into the gap behind. I think that's about 15th or 16th spot as they come out of turn 3. Big slide off of this.
Getting a run. He's got it. Going to be a drag racing line. Final corner. Checkered flag waving. Here they come. At Virginia National Raceway. To the line. Thompson, Darling, door to door, banging doors, fender to fender. I can't believe what we just saw.
In real life, Watkins Glen has been pretty quiet over the last year with very little action, if any action, going on at the racetrack. But here tonight for the Stars, a LazyRocket prototype challenge. We're going to bring it to life with some Gibson V8 screaming around this track at very high speeds with guys at very close quarters heading through the bus stop, as you can see there, through the S's, through turn 1, and through all the other famous corners around this amazing racetrack. My name is Phoenix Guna here with Tom O'Gorman for round number 6 of the SCRS LazyRocket Prototype Challenge. And Tom, glad to have you in the booth with me.
Vinny, I'm thrilled to be here, and I can't think of a track that's much more suited for a prototype than Watkins Glen. It's so fast, it's so flowing, it's fun in anything, but when you throw a ton of downforce at a single cockpit little race car like these, it's just magic.
It absolutely is magic here as we come down trackside for our qualifying as it's just getting underway, and just really looking forward to seeing how this race plays out. The draft is going to be absolutely key for these drivers. You're going to see a lot of passing. I really hope you're going to see a lot of passing. It typically tends to do so with the way Watkins Glen is set up, but we'll head down trackside. Actually, no, before we do that, let's actually go over the track map for Watkins Glen. Not too complex of a racetrack here, but it's definitely a lot of fun to navigate. Heading flying down into turn 1, got to be careful, especially if you're side by side. You got a little bit of runoff, but not a lot to play with. Then you head up flying through the S's, right, left, then right again, and into the bus stop, Tom.
The bus stop is really critical in these cars because they don't partake to the curbs particularly well. You have to watch especially the second curb on your left at the inner loop. Then the outer loop at turn 5, a little bit of banking helps you sweep down into the boot. First the laces, turn number 6. It's a really late apex, easy to overshoot, but a great passing opportunity as well. Then the lowest point of the track, the toe of the boot. Another super late apex as you rise up, climb towards the heel of the boot at turn number 8. 8 and 9, I think one of the most challenging pair of corners in all of North American motorsports before you finally get back out onto the NASCAR Cup circuit, turns 10 and 11 to round off this lap.
And now we finally get a chance to go trackside here as we get ready. Actually, qualifying really is already underway for these drivers, already putting down some pretty solid times, and it's going to be interesting to see really who's going to be at the top of the standings. It seems to be kind of between 3 different drivers in practice, with Paul Darling, DJ Alessandrini, Cy Andra being really the top 3 contenders so far.
Yeah, they were quickest in practice, but practice isn't necessarily the greatest indicator of that because they were all sharing a track together, and draft is such a massive help here in these prototype cars. Any one of those drivers could have had a sniff of draft on that lap and really influenced it differently. If you notice now, as we watch Paul Darling start another flyer, he's all by his lonesome, which means draft is not a factor here. And with that shakeup, it's actually DJ Alessandrini that has provisional pole right now.
Yeah, and actually, Cyandra has not put a lap time down just yet. Cyandra, actually, this is him right now working through the middle part of the track, has not gotten a time in, and we expect him to be up near the top. Struggled at Road America, having some problems with his rig. I think that's just putting it lightly. It was a really weird scenario. Wasn't able to grid, had to start from the pits, clawed his way back up to third after missing the gridding. So it was a really impressive performance last time I saw him out on track. And Kersey now up with everyone else where he's going to end up. Ooh, has a flash. And uh-oh, hopefully that wasn't permanent.
We lost connection with him, but right now Alessandrini is the quickest in qualifying. We already mentioned Paul Darling, who's second in the championship, but right now in the overall driver championship, third place is Carter Cundinger, who's currently qualified in fifth overall. There's the 0-2. Not necessarily the greatest on raw speed at every single race, not necessarily always at the front in qualifying, but has really made a specialty of capitalizing on the feature races. And if you're joining us for the first time, this series does a sprint race of 10 laps tonight, and then a feature race of about 45 minutes after that. So it's a shorter race and then a longer race. And Cundinger has just been kind of a master on that feature race.
Yeah, and that's really where you can make up some solid points with the invert. And speaking of which, too, the invert tonight going to have slightly less cars to invert. Although we do have a slightly limited field. I think we only got 21 guys, so a few guys will be missing out. But it's less than looking like before, where it would have been the full field invert. We're only going to invert the top 16 this time around. So a few guys towards the back may be missing out. But some surprise names up near the top that I wasn't expecting to see. Mo Islam, namely, in second place at the moment. Chris Hudson in third as well, and even Corey Bunch, he was looking really fast in practice, as looking to be the fastest AM driver in the 93 machine.
Yeah, these guys are killing it. Mo Islam just jumps up to second provisionally, then Chris Hudson third, Paul Darling fourth, Carter Cundinger fifth, and there's Corey Bunch, who's leading the points, the current, the points championship in the AM category. Those are the orange number plates on your left side of your screen. The red number plates are the pro drivers, so those are kind of, they're assigned, what should we say, subjectively, but
yes,
they tend to work out pretty evenly, and it's pretty impressive for Corey Bunch to be up that far.
Yeah, there's no exact standards. Typically, if you performed well, if you're a previous champion or a race winner, they kind of take a lot of factors into account and assign people. And over the few seasons that they've done this format of, subjectively putting guys in groups, it works out very well. They've done a fantastic job with it. It's almost always the pros running up near the front and the AMs running in behind. Some mix-ups here and there, some things occur, but they've been pretty spot on for the most part. So really solid picks, and very fitting for everyone. I don't think there's really any two surprises, except really the fact that Derek Rovold is struggling a bit in qualifying at the moment, only back in 16th in the AM mix. You can see red number plates for him, pro driver, but 16th though, far away from the rest of his competitors.
I think this is kind of a good point to highlight, is that this track, because of how well it suits a prototype car, in that a prototype car relies on its downforce. It goes faster the faster you drive it, really, and that sounds dumb, but the faster you're willing to carry the corner entry speed, the faster you're willing to keep it spinning, it's better at that. And certain tracks are not necessarily the case for that, but Watkins Glen fits this kind of car so well that certain drivers have a harder time adapting to how fast it can actually go. And this might be down to why Derek Roveld is struggling just a little bit. We say just a little bit, he's less than a second off of the overall pole.
Yeah, the times are very close. Again, kind of what you expect, but still, that's a lot of guys in that gap, and spots he should try to make up. I don't think he's actually going to get a chance to finish this lap. He might be just a little bit shy of making that. So as he continues on his final timed lap. And it looks like Cyandra has rejoined the session back, but we're talking about, I kind of jinxed him. I was talking about the troubles he had at Road America, wasn't able to grid, and here he is looking like he's not going to be able to, he's going to definitely grid, fingers crossed, open and just jinx him again, but he's going to be starting from the back, at least in race number 1.
And he had this problem at Daytona as well and had to fight his way all the way through both sprint and feature races. So this is kind of becoming his thing, and that's not really a good thing to have be your thing. But it'll be fun for us to watch regardless, the 67 coming from the back. Meanwhile, his teammate, the 155, Paul Darling, goes to pole over DJ Alessandrini by less than, what is that, 0.04 of a second? That's super tight.
Yeah, it's extremely close between those guys up near the front. Kind of what we expected, but some other names throwing their hat to the ring as well. So just, and again, as you mentioned too, this is the pace over these guys without the draft to kind of equalize them, bring them closer together theoretically. And so the times by themselves, these guys running by themselves, is really close near the front, which should lead to things being pretty interesting here as we get ready for gridding.
Yeah, to give you an idea, the fastest times in practice were in the 1:32.2s, so they're 0.3 slower with that draft. You can be bet that that's going to keep things nice and tight tonight.
Absolutely. I'll take this time to start going through. Hang on one moment.
Welcome back after an actual off week for this series.
Sorry about that. Thought I muted. That was a race admin Eric Mickey giving a speech to the drivers before gridding. I could have sworn that I turned it voice chat off earlier, but apparently I didn't. But as I was saying before he cut me off, is that let's get down to gridding, Tom.
So that'll be starting on pole, Paul Darling, who is one of your championship contenders, but also fastest in qualifying tonight alongside DJ Alessandrini, who leads the championship. In fact, these are the top two.
Yeah, looking really strong. Then we got Mo Islam and Chris Hudson lining up in the 206 and the 43 car, respectively. Then Carter Cundinger rounding out your front grid of pro drivers. Corey Bunch, the first AM driver, going to line up next to him. Ryan Cladwell in the 144th. Anthony Montello lined up in the 24 next to him.
Good effort for Anthony. Then it's Jackson Robillard joining us again tonight in the number 9th spot. The 98 car will line up alongside 10th. Kyle Lamb, who had a killer run in the Lamborghinis, defended his butt off for a nice finishing order. Then it's Colin Daner and Ryan Plourde will round out 11th and 12th.
Moving on back to 13th, you find Dominic Dornberg in the 913. Drew Leakey going to be lining up in the 121. Derek Rowe all the way back in 13th position with Brian Chabelsky lined up next to him in 14th. Actually, no, I think I read that wrong. That was a 15 and 16. Sorry, there are no number positions.
And then to round out the final couple of rows, Eric Brown in the 17th spot. His 56 car will line up alongside Mick Blue in the 18th position. Cody Meadows and Murphy Nichols rounding out the final qualifying order before we get to Cy Andra, who would like to thank AT&T for his qualifying performance. He made the grid, but unfortunately did not get a lap time in qualifying due to some connection issues. So keep an eye on that blue number 67. He's going to be charging.
Yeah, absolutely. And just taking a look at what he has to go through here, starting all the way in the back. And I totally agree with that message being brought to you by AT&T, as I rely on them for my cell phone coverage, and it is not ideal, I guess is the best way to put that.
How great would that be for him to have an AT&T livery?
He really should. He should really consider it for the next few rounds. Alright, as these guys continue on for the pace, let's go through some keys to the race. And really, I think the biggest one, at least initially, is going to be lap 1 wrecks. We've seen it quite a few times, especially in... I always think back to the Rosendo Sports Car Challenge, where the track was blocked on 2 occasions. I don't think it's going to be that chaotic this race. I'm going to knock on my wooden desk right here. But it's definitely a thing to watch out. And if not the S's, if not Toronto, if not the S's, definitely the bus stop and really the other parts of the track. Because especially here in the boot, things can get pretty narrow with these cars sideways in the middle of the track. So that's definitely one thing to watch out for. Also, bus stop perfection, that section could either make or break your lap. And if you're not careful enough, it could also end your race. And the other big thing, too, we were talking about a little bit in qualifying, and it's definitely going to be a big factor in the race, is the slipstream. Draft going to be extremely key for these drivers to not only keep into it, but use it to your advantage, especially making a pass, as we mentioned, into the bus stop, as well as the other fairly long straights around this track.
Yeah, and talking to the drivers, they said expect this to be basically like Talladega. They don't expect much spreading out. I do think that the opportunity for disaster is pretty high because of how small the margins are. Look at that; it's almost less than a car length before you get to one of those blue metal barriers. But things nice and cool here. 73-degree track temperature, 70 degrees air temp. These cars are making good power, lots of grip, coming to the green for round number 6.
Yeah, again, it's Finney Kuna and Tom O'Gorman in the booth bringing you action for round number 6 here at Watkins Glen. Really, really excited for this. Once we get this underway, we got some guys a little bit further back than they probably should be. They're going to be working their way up to the order. Some big names up near the front, some slightly newer names up near the front that we normally don't see competing for the win. They have a chance to sign, usually in race 1. Race 2 is where we expect the unexpected. Might be here for race number 1. Pace car going to duck into pit road, give the field in control of Paul Darling as he's off and away. We are green here at Watkins Glen for race number 1.
Great jump for Darling, closes the door immediately. Mo Islam with a run up the inside of the Alessandrini, jumps out of it early. These cars, no ABS. You got to be super careful on the opening laps as we see a number of cars lock up, a big contact in the background.
And that's Corey Meadows and a few others involved as well. We're going to continue on looking up near the front. Paul Darling racing his way on through the S's. DJ Alessandrini close in behind. Mo Islam's got two cars in behind him, looking almost 3 wide, and even DJ up in front is looking at making it side by side in the bus stop.
I think it's Cundinger and Hudson trying to attack for 3rd place. They make it through. Look at how the speed. They just blur across that bus stop. And I'm pretty sure in the background it was Dirk Roveld who had the incident. Who is that? Is that Paul Darling?
That is Paul Darling off in the grass. Oh. He made a mistake and is already going to find himself closer to the back of the field in 15th place. And this is not what he wanted.
Heartbreaking. Luckily for him, he has the opportunity to capitalize on the inverted race coming up. The feature race has a top 16 invert, and he's within that invert zone, but he must have caught a curb badly in the bus stop. We'll take a look at it. Potentially a big hop on the curbs and just got sent spinning.
Sorry, you missed it by just a hair, and you saw him head into the lead here. Oh, just clipped the curb, clipped the grass, I think. A little bit too much, cold tires, and around he went. Reared it into the tire barrier. Shouldn't be too big of an issue, but just the sheer loss of track position is going to be tough for him. A tough pill to swallow here as he's back in 14th. And looking back up at front, DJ about a complete lap number 1. Carter Cundinger close in tow.
Oh, Islam is still within touch, but Cundinger has a great start. Tags the wall on the exit of the first corner, or the last corner, starting lap number 2. Not going to help his case if he picked up any body damage. Islam has a little bit of a run, deep on the brakes, tucks in though.
Yeah, you can see how much speed these guys are carrying through turn number 1, ducking down just below 100 miles an hour, which is extremely quick through there. As they come flying up through the S's, and you can see the slipstream in tow for Islam. And I think Carter Cundinger too. It's a little bit far back, but he's trying to keep as much with DJ as possible, just to kind of help him carry him along. Looking on back, Corey Bunch, Ryan Cladwell fighting it out for 4th place. So it looks like Cladwell's going to win on this occasion. Taking a look back at Paul Darling working through the mix of traffic. I think also saw Andrew, might have been involved in the lap 1, turn 1 incident we saw him. I'm not sure if he's got any damage to that car. The machine looks pretty okay. But he's also still back in 16th.
Well, that's the risk you take when you miss qualifying for whatever reason, whether you mess it up for yourself or somebody else messes it up for you. You have to start at the back of the pack, and it's just a really high-risk situation to be in. But Paul Darling is starting to slice his way through this field pretty quickly. The next car on his radar is Kyle Lamb in that 42 car, but this is a great battle up into the top 10.
Ooh, and Ryan Plourde almost went flying off the track and heel of the boot. Kyle Lamb, speaking of which, was trying to make a passing cage out of that. Then heading through this turn, this is my, I would say, my least favorite corner of the track. It's just because it's so hard to navigate through. It's so awkward for these in any car that you're in to work your way on through. But if you can nail it, you can really make up some time.
Yeah, definitely incredibly hard. And up the road just a little bit, Anthony Montello has a bit of a train forming behind him. Colin Daner is really putting on the pressure. Jackson Robillard is in there. Then we get to Lamb, Plourde, Dorenberg, and the rest. And they are really running as close as you can in these cars. With that aero wash, you can't get super close before the car starts to push. This is your best passing opportunity with a draft up S's.
Yeah, Anthony Montello has been pretty good at some of these races. I think back to Road America, he finished in the top 5 in race number 1, did very well. Didn't have as great of a race 2. Corey Bunch up ahead, making a pass on Cladwell. These guys going back and forth constantly. As Bunch is going to get ahead, and we go back to Montello. He's got Colin Daner in the 578 right in behind. Very nice paint scheme on that car, I might add too. Trying to take a look back at Paul Darling's progress up the order. Looks like he's making some pretty decent pace up into 11th at the moment. And currently sitting in the invert position, I'll be starting on pole, is Mick Blue all the way back in 16th place. He's going to be happy with that spot at the moment. Then Murphy Nichols, you saw getting passed by Cy Andra for 14th. Ooh, Murphy Nichols having a spot of internet issues.
So we're pretty close to Darling and Andra being close to each other on track for the teammates to work together. Those are the two dark blue cars. There's Darling, and then 3 cars back is Andra. Those cars are both in much better positions for the feature race than Alessandrini, Cundinger, and Islam, the rest of our pro drivers who are way up at the top, and they're pretty well separated out. Daner, though, putting a lot of pressure on the back of Montello, will have a massive draft this lap through.
Yeah, and turn one's a bit tricky to try to get that pass on. You can try to throw it up the inside, but you lose so much momentum going to the outside of the corner here, and it can really hurt yourself. You see these guys going pretty wide coming out of turn one, as you mentioned earlier, trying to maintain that speed.
Yeah, I found actually in doing a couple laps myself that these cars are almost so fast here that you're better off cutting distance because the car. Oh, a bump draft! That is not something you see very often. Montello gets loose. Daner goes into the back of him. I was gonna say it's almost better to cut race distance than it is to carry your speed in a lot of places, but these guys are just carrying their speed into each other.
Yeah, it seemed there's nowhere to go for Daner. I think thought about making a pass into the bus stop, but that's also another that's a very tricky pass to make a pass happen, especially if you throw it in there half-heartedly. But he's going to sit in behind on this occasion. Also transforming up in behind Jackson Roller, where we got Dominic Dornberg, Ryan Plourde, and Paul Darling sitting in behind. Now he's trying to make quick work of these guys here, heading into the middle of the boot.
It's definitely lucky that he had that happen in such a small race. We have had as many as 40 prototypes start these races, and this week only about 22 or so. So he's lucky not to have many positions to pick up. Goes deep on the brakes upside the 913. Dornenberg leaves him a little bit of space, but not too much, and now they're going to drag race to turn 9.
Yeah, just left him just enough space to get on through. You can see Dornberg struggling through that corner, trying to get the car to rotate. That inside line is treacherous through there, and we saw him having to yield that spot after the car was getting very loose, almost went flying into Paul Darling, but Darling just going to skate by into 10th place. And up ahead,
Something happened. Oh, go ahead.
No, you were saying?
I was going to say something happened to Cy Andra in the background. He's back down to 18th place after he had... Oh, man.
That's massive. A lot of things. A lot of things happened to him.
Yeah.
Let's see what it was. This is where the engine started smoking. It was right through here, but he had major damage beforehand.
Yeah, it almost looks like he took an impact earlier in the lap, and then they
found it.
Found it.
Yep, sorry, this is a replay of looking at what happened here. This is heading through the bus stop. Kyle Lamb spun in front. I also noticed that Lamb was far down the order and flying into the barrier. That was a very hard hit.
It's a massive hit. Every corner of that car torn apart, and then the engine lets go a couple corners later. So Andra will be even out of the invert zone coming into our feature race. He'll have to start at the back yet again, and this has just been his story of the season, unfortunately, for one of the fastest drivers.
Yeah, gets the backup car out and immediately gets flying underway again. Yeah, there's a chance if some other drivers have a mistake. I mean, we're only halfway through this race, but if some other drivers make a mistake, he's only got to make up, let's see, 1, 2, 3 spots to get that invert. It's not completely out of the question. Many things can happen, so he's going to have to hope that a lot of attrition comes to some drivers. He's probably going to be looking at this battle going on between Jackson Robillard or Paul Darling. At least it was a battle. Darling flying on past. Let's see if Robillard can keep touch. Whoa! There's a car going flying to the barrier, or almost into the barrier. That was Ryan Plourde struggling.
Yeah, he really had a big moment there. Robillard doesn't quite make it through and now shows the nose at the inside for turn number 11. Tucks back in, but Darling made quick work of everybody in front of him. He was at the back of a 4-car battle 2 laps ago and now is at the front of it, up into 8th position. What's interesting there is at the front, Alessandrini, Cundinger, and Islam have not separated hardly at all. They're basically stagnant at almost 2 seconds between each one. And I think that'll kind of stay the same, which means Darling has, 5 laps to go before he can kind of work his way back up towards that.
Yeah, this is EJ Alessandrini, 133 flat last time through. Carter Cundinger just a hair faster, almost a tenth faster, 132.9. So Cundinger is actually able to make up some time, but he's going to have to try to get into that slipstream to really start reeling him in, at least on the straightaways. It's kind of a hindrance through some of these corners, being stuck in behind someone, but that draft on the straight definitely helps out quite a bit. Speaking of which, Darling trying to make a move through the carousel on Ryan Plourde.
He made a mistake. He was in front of Plourde a moment ago, and something must have happened exiting the bus stop. The 155 is now behind. Let's see if he... Oh, yeah, he misses the exit of the bus stop. I bet it's that same curve that caught him out. Watch this.
Yeah, it was the same exact one. It sent him wide a little bit more. It went flying over the jump, almost like he was on a rallycross configuration of Watkins Glen. And yeah, lost that spot to Plourde, so he's gonna have to be trying to fight for it back at the moment as he come out now to the exit of the boot. And this has been a very interesting race for Darling. Probably would not like it to be as interesting as that, as Plourde goes flying. We saw him struggle last lap through. Around he goes.
Dornenberg and Robillard barely missed that. Drew Lidke's in there as well, and that driver we haven't talked about much, but those drivers all worked their way up into the top 10 now, with Plourde plummeting down into...
Whoa! And he's gonna
that'll
also
become the invert position.
Yeah, and Chris Hudson picking up a spot of damage as well. I think it should be fine for him to continue on, although I don't think he's going to be too happy with Ryan Plourde.
Very possible. I'm curious what happened to Hudson. You saw there he started 4th and is now running in 15th position, so that's really not great. Paul Darling heads to the pits. Maybe had some damage on that car. Look at him in the pit lane.
Oops, sorry, I hit the wrong button there. Yeah, I guess he did. Remember, we did see him take that jump. These things are not meant to fly. So I think might have definitely got some pretty bad damage. Also, Chris Hudson slow for a second there off. That was interesting.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that one. And now Chris Hudson has, I think, Eric Brown coming up quickly. No, it's Lamb, Kyle Lamb, around the outside in the 42, takes the spot. Man, so much happening in such a short race. We still have the feature race to go. The only thing consistent is the top 3 right now.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't want to stay, don't hold your breath, because that can change in a second. These guys have been doing a pretty solid jump up near front. I think especially Cundinger and Moism, I don't think they're going to force the issue here. I think 2nd and 3rd is going to be more than happy for them. Don't want to push too hard and put yourself in a barrier. You see them coming flying out. They've been maintaining pretty solid pace. Obviously not up there scrapping with DJ, but still haven't lost too much time. Have kind of been maintaining a similar gap lap after up. Although the last time through, DJ was actually significantly faster. 132.4 for DJ to 132.9 for Carter Cundinger, and Mo Islam ran the same 132.9. So big discrepancy there.
Definitely a big one, and potentially because of how much fuel has been burned out of these cars, they actually get faster and faster throughout the stint. They're fast with fresh tires and they're fast with no gas, but in the middle they get a little bit awkward. We've talked about that in previous rounds, and now we're at the point where they're going to have a lot of gas burned out of them, and Alessandrini making good use of that early on in this lap, but cut back a little further where we still have some battles.
Yeah, this is looking at Drew Lidke here. He's scrapping with Jackson Robillard and also Dominic Dornberg, who's just up the road there in frame. As they work on through the carousel. And carousel, it feels like you can take a few different lines through there. You can try to keep it a little bit low, try to swing it a little bit wide, but you gotta be careful, because that curve goes up on you quick, and you don't want to mount that curve, because that'll really upset the balance of the car.
It really does, and it tends to also be pretty blind. It's hard to kind of turn your head and see the exit of that corner, so you have to do it off of muscle memory. And right now, Dornenberg is kind of dusting these guys. He pulled away big time in the last couple corners. Robillard struggling a bit, Lidke as well. And they dropped maybe 5 car lengths back.
Robillard able to keep him up at the moment. You see Robillard mount the curbs a little bit, and we're talking about unsettling the car. You really want to keep this thing planted at all times. Any little jump over a curb, it just completely throws the car out of whack, especially the traction control too. That's really going to be the thing that kills you. Usually it helps you, but if you play naughty with it, it will definitely be a hindrance to that traction control.
Big time. It's fascinating to talk about the aerodynamics of a car, because even the body roll can affect how much the aerodynamics work. So a lot of times these cars are designed to be as flat as possible, as much as possible, and obviously when you put 2 wheels in the air, you're not flat, you're up in the sky, so you don't want to be in that position. Jackson Robillard's continuing to struggle to keep up with Dornenberg, and this is still the battle for 8th. 18 seconds out of the lead.
And I want to also come back to Paul Darling. Nothing really interesting going on for him at the moment, but look at his position. He's sitting in 15th place. So even despite the fact that he is pitting, he's going to be starting at least second. He's going to miss out on quite a few points for this particular round. He'll be lined up 2nd place at the start of race 2. So he's got at least that looking forward to him. Cyandra, unfortunately, still back in 19th. That attrition has not arisen quite yet. I don't think he will come for the rest of this race, unfortunately.
They came into this round, Alessandrini, your leader, Paul Darling in 2nd in the championship, separated by about 7 points. So this will be a big swing in the favor of Alessandrini, who has also had his fair share of misfortunes in sprint and feature races. The wild card is now Darling will start basically at the front of the feature race, and Alessandrini will start essentially at the back.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to see DJ come flying up through the order, as it is on many occasions. You see here a little pass for position as DJ does take the white flag. It says Shabelski making a move on Murphy Nichols. Nice clean pass there, no shenanigans. Nichols is struggling with some internet issues, though. The second time we've seen him flash on screen, hopefully it gets a little bit better for him. That's the last thing. I don't think he wants what happened to Cyandra to occur to him. He just leaves, ends up getting kicked out of the server.
Yeah, certainly. And ooh, runs a little bit wide. There's the aero wash coming into effect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I haven't seen that be too big of an issue, though we do kind of typically see these cars naturally spread themselves out just because of that aero wash. But the straightaways here bring them right back together. Speaking of which, here comes Jackson Robillard. Run on Drew Lidke. He's going to peel out to the right side. Oh, and it's going to get sideways with him. Almost going to door him as they work their way on through the bus stop. That went a lot better than I thought it was going to in the middle of that. And he's going to get ahead of Lidke for now into 9th.
That was incredible. It takes two to tango through the bus stop, and Drew Lidke saw the attack coming, left Jackson Robillard the space, and made it work. But on the final lap, Allison Drini quietly from the front row takes the last couple of corners as he is the leader.
Yeah, really solid job for DJ. Nothing too big for him. Fairly calm, collected race from his point of view, and things going to be happy with this. Another win for him in the books as he comes flying out of the final corner, and he will take the win here in race number 1 at Watkins Glen. Slowly in behind him is Carter Cundinger. It was only 2.7 seconds back, so that might be something to keep an eye on here, as they're going to be both starting in the back of the field. Mo Islam going to round out your top 3. Corey Bunch, Ryan Cladwell, your top 5. Anthony Montello, we talked about him having a pretty good day. He's going to finish out in 7th with Dana right in front of him. Dominic Dornberg in 9th. Jackson Robillard in 10th. And he just finishes ahead of Drew Lidke after a really, really solid pass through the bus stop. And working your way on through a little bit further back, Paul Darling's going to finish this race in 14th. Disappointed for sure, but it's got a lot looking up for him in race number 2, potentially.
Well, just in how the race 2 is weighted on time, it's also weighted on points. So you have the sprint race to start the night off, 15 minutes or so, then the feature race, 45 minutes or so. The feature race pays a lot more points, and right now Paul Darling is certainly poised to capitalize on that feature race, where Allison Drini has a lot more work cut out for him, as does Cundinger. We've only had 4 race winners in any capacity, sprint or feature races, and it's Allison Drini, Cundinger, Darling, and Cyandra. So can maybe somebody else break through tonight?
Yeah, I have to say, we already went through your race results. Only 3 pros inside the top 3, so the rest of them, I think we have 7 on the grid. The rest of them have kind of struggled tonight. Rovo, though, so we didn't really talk about him. He struggled very early on, finished all the way back in 20, as well as Cyandra, who we talked about quite a bit. So I think they're going to be hoping that they can turn their night around with the invert, although a lot of them are not going to be benefiting from it.
We've got Corey Bunch takes essentially the win in the AM category of the orange drivers. He is your points championship leader as well, so he will extend that lead just a little bit over Ryan Caldwell and Colin Daner, rounding out the podium for the AM drivers. And all of them will invert just outside of the top 10 as well. They're going to have their work cut out for them.
Yeah, actually take this time, just take a little bit of a break here before we get warmed up for the feature race coming up to you in just a little bit. So don't go anywhere, we'll be right back. All right, and we're back here for Watkins Glen. Race 2 coming up in just a little bit. We got 26 laps on the clock, just about 40-45 minutes for these drivers. And now, Tom, with a longer race, we saw him be a little bit hectic for a lot of guys. I don't think there was literally a lot of over-aggression, but maybe over-driving, would you say?
Yeah, I think a number of drivers got caught out with just the consequences of putting an inch wrong here at Watkins Glen, specifically in the bus stop. A number of our big factor drivers caught the second curb and just went for a big old slide. A number of other drivers making mistakes here and there, and with only, 21 cars on the grid, it shook things up pretty big.
Yeah, it really did, and we're going to be actually showing you that shake-up in just a little bit here as we cut down to the track for gridding. And we got, after the invert, actually looks like Paul Darling ended up in third. Actually, that makes sense. He finished in 14th. He was able to pass one more car. It's going to be Eric Brown that's going to be starting on the pole here. So looking forward to seeing what he's going to be able to do with that starting spot. I'm trying to look if there's any other more notable names up near the front now.
Yeah, Ryan Plourde will start second there from 12th. On the grid last time through. Then Paul Darling, I think he's absolutely in position to capitalize on this one, but he showed some chinks in the armor. He made the same mistake twice on that second curb in the bus stops. He's going to have to fix that if he's going to want to win this race. Then Murphy Nichols will start fourth.
Yeah, Nichols has shown some pretty good pace in a few different occasions, especially in the GT3 cars. It's been pretty decent in prototype challenge as well. And even Colin Danner, too, for that matter, also showing some really solid pace in the GT3 machinery. He's actually done decent in this race, going to be starting back in 11. Then we have DJ Alessandrini, obviously a race winner, going to be all the way back here. Drivers just missing out on the invert. Kyle Lamb, Chris Hudson, Cyandra, definitely a big one there, as well as Derek Roval, two pro drivers starting 19th and 20th after fairly unfortunate races. Even and Cody Meadows, too, in 21st. Just cut back up to the front again. Eric Brown taking control of the field. And then Paul Darling. This is, I think, really at this point for Darling, this is his race to lose.
Yeah, I think so for sure. And you just mentioned it at the bottom there. Alessandrini, Lamb, Hudson, and Andra are all pro drivers. They start 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th on the grid. So we have a majority of our pro category entrants starting at the very, very back. Then you're looking at that 155. That's a pro driver starting up in third. He's got a long buffer before he has any pressure. So he can kind of take his time, but also he wants to get to the front quickly and just set his pace.
Drivers entering through the bus stop. We've seen catch quite a few different drivers. I think it's probably been Calamity Corner for this particular race. And we did actually see some stuff occur in race number one, in lap one, sorry. Did see a few lap one wrecks in turn one. Do you think now with the field kind of shifted back, do you think you're going to see more aggression, or maybe you think because of what happened in race one, these guys might take it a little bit easy?
I think it'll be a little bit more calm down into turn number one. We also have no anti-lock brakes on these cars. We do have traction control, but I think the mistakes and the incident we saw in turn one on the last race was because drivers were caught out and locked brakes up. They're in the rhythm now, so they shouldn't really have an excuse for that. Hopefully it doesn't happen, and then everybody can kind of get in their rhythm and start to pick their way through the field.
Yeah, let's see here as they're working the way now through the top of the boot. Let's see here. Trying to look at everyone else is. So I think what I'm curious to see is back in traffic now between Carter Cundinger and DJ Alessandrini. If Carter Cundinger now that he's back in traffic, if he can maybe try to get a leg up on Alessandrini, I would say between the two they've been kind of equal when it comes to working through the traffic. So this could be Carter's chance to maybe get a one up on DJ as they try to work their way up through the order. And I do expect to see both these cars up in front. You can even throw Mo Islam into the mix as well. He's been pretty solid as well. I expect to see these cars inside the top five. I think what is really going to be curious to see if Paul Darling is going to be able to break away from them with his pretty solid starting position.
Yeah, and the last thing we should mention is that there is a pit stop involved in this race. Cars will come down and top off the fuel tanks to make it to the end. They will not take race tires on the car, but pit stops are a thing here as well, so there is some strategy involved in this race.
Absolutely. Here is the pace car working through the final corner. The final time we see the pace car for this evening. As we get ready to start race number 2, Eric Brown control of the field. He will immediately get going as we go green here at Watkins Glen for 26 laps on the clock. And Ryan Plourde going to try to work around the outside. Going to still be side by side with our leaders. You see Paul Darling already maybe thinking of having a look as they head up through the S's.
Great move from Plourde to keep his position there. Darling has a little bit of a buffer to maybe get a drop. Plourde spins across the track, and everybody will pile into him. He goes up into the air. Most drivers make it through. On the outside, he gets split. I think maybe only 3 cars actually had contact in that whole exchange.
Oh, and 1, 2, 3 drivers missing the bus stop immediately. So our top 3 having to miss the corner, take it. They're going to have to slow down to serve. And this is going to allow Murphy Nichols to potentially work his way on by Darling. I'm not sure if he still has that slowdown active. I imagine so. It gives you a pretty hefty one as he takes a lock up into the bus stop. No, sorry, into the boot. He goes flying out wide. 1, 2, on a massive crash entering the boot.
Way more cars piling up. I thought they would be more content to kind of chill this race, but that is absolutely not the case. Ryan Daner involved in that. I think Chris Hudson was involved at some point. Murphy Nichols gets going again. There is Hudson, and I think, is that the 144? It is, of
Cladwell.
Ryan Caldwell.
Yeah, he's struggling now, being stuck back. That's unfortunate for him. Jackson Roller now going to inherit second place. The entire top 5 just changed hands about 3 different times during this lap. But Paul Darling has been able to emerge through the smoke and will be the leader after lap number 1. Curious to see where DJ and company are after a very crazy lap 1. DJ's all the way back in 11th. Carter Cundinger's up into 6th.
That was unbelievable. From the 6th round of the series, you would have thought everybody was a little bit more experienced on how to handle the first lap of a 45-minute race, but maybe not. Carter Cundinger in 6th. A driver that I was going to point out at the top of the show was Jackson Robillard, who has real-world racing experience, and he's making that show up to 2nd from 9th on the grid. That's a heck of a charge.
It's going to be big, though. We saw Darling in race number 1. He blew by Jackson Roller. We'll see if Jackson can now turn his hand and try to keep with Darling and try to chase him back down. Looking back at a battle for third, Mick Blue, Dominic Dornberg, and Brian Chabelski all battling for that final podium spot. And then we got Carter Cundinger and Cy Andro was also able to make his way on through that from 19th to 7th.
Wow, so maybe something happened to Allison Drini to slow his road a little bit.
Okay.
Andrew is having more internet issues, is he not? No, there he is back.
He's back on this occasion.
There's so much happening, we both got nervous for him, but he's at the back of this 5-car train, which will essentially lead him all the way up into 4th if he can get by everybody.
Yeah, that's going to be the big if here. These guys are going to be fighting for some solid spots here. Again, for a lot of these guys that normally run on the midfield, being stuck up here near the top, it's a chance at some really good points. And you're not going to just let these guys blow on by you. As you see here, Brian Chabelski is going to be fighting with Carter Cundinger and Cy Andrew here heading into the penultimate corner. And it looks like Cundinger is going to get his way on by Darling, trying to make a move. It's so tight through this section. These guys go flying from one side of the track to the other.
So Andra gets pinned, and at the front of this train is Mick Blue, who we haven't talked a lot about, the number 96 car there with kind of Gulf livery colors almost on it. Now Andra gets up the inside of the 12. Chabelski succumbs to the pressure. Whoa! People all over the place. Plourde rejoining from the pit lane, and that catches Mick Blue out. Dornenberg goes through.
Yeah, now he's actually going to get he's going to be at a disadvantage here. We see Carter Cundinger slipping around the outside. A lot of blue cars here in the frame. He's going to be side by side with Mick Blue heading into the bus stop. It looks like he's going to not win, and it's going to be Mick Blue that'll still be up in... Nope, getting confused again. Carter Cundinger did make his way on through. Andra now is going to be in behind.
Yeah, exactly the same color on those cars, but Andra is still pinned behind Mick Blue. Now shows the nose at the inside. Blue makes it easy, and the blue and orange car goes wide and gets him through. So Andra up to 5th. Ryan Plourde struggling once again into the wall. Andra checks up, and now Mick Blue reattacks the position.
Some crazy opening laps here. We're only on lap 3. There's some amazing battling going on, and unfortunately Blue, he's not going to be able to do anything with that fight as he threw it up the inside. Now Carter Cundinger looking at the back, and Dominic Dornberg misses the corner a little bit. We talked about aero wash a little bit through a few of these corners, and it really stands out. And you see they're now working back onto the normal course.
Oh, a big stack up just behind. Mick Blue got sideways and crossed the track. A big stack up. I can't remember which cars got actually into him, and a number of cars didn't make it through without contact. One of the cars we should keep an eye on is Allison Drini. He's 3 cars back. So Mick Blue gets a little bit loose on the curb right there, spins him across the track. Mo Islam gets into him. Allison Drini dodges it. Oh, the 38 gets through. Rollveld. It's tight stuff.
Yeah, it really is. And there's McBlue rolling back in 14th. Meanwhile, checking back up with our leaders. Darling's ahead of Jackson Robillard by 2 seconds. Then it's back to Carter Cundinger, 3.5 seconds with Dominic Dorberg. And here comes Cyandra as well. Into the bus stop goes Cyandra. He will take that from Dominic Dornberg, who moves him back into 5th. And now Cyandra and Carter Cundinger are going to do battle now. And these are two pretty fast cars, so this will be interesting to see who can win this fight.
Yeah, 2 very fast cars. 2 of our only 4-round winners. The other 2 being Darling and Alessandrini, so nobody else has won a race this entire time. Cundinger drops a tire on the exit of the Hilaces, goes for a little bit of a ride, but gathers it up. Nails the toe of the boot nicely there.
Yeah, and I think both these guys are sitting in really ideal positions. They work through the field in a very quickly. A lot quicker than I thought they were going to after what happened on lap 1. It's only lap 4 of 26, and they're sitting only a little over 6 seconds back from the leaders. But again, that's Paul Darling that they're going to have to catch, and really just going to be a matter of Paul Darling doesn't make any mistakes and throws that lead away. But both these guys, 2 very fast cars that I may expect to catch them, if not keep pace. We'll have to see.
Totally agree. I wouldn't expect to see that tumble much without a mistake from Darling. It's going to be right about at that 6-second mark. But these 2 certainly have the opportunity to run down.
I see
Jackson
DJ dropping down the order. I think something just happened to him.
Is he in the pit lane potentially?
No, he's off. Trying to see if we can find what happened to him. All right, this is what I think happened to him. This is coming into the boot. Oh, did he just lose internet? Can't imagine he would have made a mistake here. And works his way on through, and I think right around here, yeah. Oh, just popped out of existing internet issue for DJ Alessandrini. That's very rare for him. I've never seen him have internet issues on the events we've covered on Sim TV.
Yeah, that's a disastrous night for him, and I haven't actually seen him pop out of the server yet, so it might be possible that he's still around, maybe stuck in purgatory, but that's a big swing on the championship. Is now Paul Darling. He had problems in the first sprint race, now is going to swing all that back in the feature race.
Yeah, also Dominic Dornberg was running really well just a moment ago, so this is heading through the bus stop. Did the same mistake that we saw Darling do once and twice. And now for Dornberg, that's going to spin him out. Is able to get the car looped back around. I don't think he got any damage. Ooh, and also in behind, there was Murphy Nichols. He also had a little bit of a trip through the grass.
There it is now. Finally, Alessandrini pops out of the server, so he has been disconnected. I suspect he'll know that the stakes of this are gone, and he probably won't come back. So the 3 cars out of this one. Darling is at the front, and these 2 are now set their sights on Robillard. You see them in frame. This is the battle for 3rd. Carter Cundinger and Cyandra. They seem pretty content to run in this order right now, but it's early.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if they're going to maybe want to change this up, maybe put Cyandra up in front. They got, a little bit of time to kind of experiment, not a whole lot. But figuring out which of these 2 cars are faster. They definitely want to work together because you want to keep eyes on the prize. You want to both try to get the win here. It looks like Cyandra is going to make a move. Not sure if they're planning this or not. I don't think so. As you see, it looks like Cundinger is going to let him on by. So Cyandra going to be in front of this little 2-car tango. And you were talking about, oh, okay, sorry. I thought one of them flashed out of the picture, flashed out of the server for a second. But you're talking earlier about, these drivers comparing it to this race to being like Talladega with, all these guys at the slipstream being into quite an effect. And, there's also coming to effect too with stock car racing, 2 cars working together with the draft, tailing one another. So with them reversing, Cyandra up in front, we'll see if they can have maybe a little bit quicker closing rate. They actually lost 2/10 last time through.
Well, if you look at just the pace that they had in practice, which Cyandra did not qualify, so we shouldn't look at qualifying, but Cyandra was 2nd in practice at a 2:32.3. Cundinger was all the way down at a 2:32.7 in practice, so theoretically, the 67 does have another half second of pace in it, just using that as a data point. Smart to have him lead.
Yeah, here's a little battle going on. I think Cody Meadows is trying to make a move on Murphy Nichols. He got held up, and there comes Shabelski trying to make a move on Cody Meadows. It's a battle for 8th place. Here's Shabelski get off the gas a little bit. We're through the final penultimate corner. Boy, the air wash, you can still see him struggling for grip here, getting a little close to the wall on exit.
So hard to just be up close to somebody. You just got to stay close enough to get the draft in this section of the track. And right now, the number 4 of Meadows is definitely there. We'll another connection issues. They're going to go side by side up through the middle of the S's. Nichols pulls out ahead. The 12, Shabelski, sweeps up to the inside of turn 4.
Yeah, and also Dornberg, or sorry, not Dornberg, Cody Meadows looking very out of shape coming out of turn 1. Lost a lot of his momentum, and you're talking about that being key. Unfortunately, Shabelski wasn't able to use the run to get the pass done. Anthony Montello also sitting right in behind these guys in 10th place. He's also looking his chops at potentially making up 1 or 2 spots if this battle goes awry.
He is kind of where he started. He started exactly where he started, in fact, 10th to 10th. So he's been quiet and patient, but we know he was very quick in the first round, coming home in, let's see, in 7th place. So if he can start to pick off cars now that things have spread out just a little bit, maybe strategize a little bit better than others, make up some time in the pit lane as well, he might be in a great spot there in the 24.
Yeah, that's absolutely where he needs to, a lot of these guys need to now put their attention to is, maybe if they're going to catch traffic. I'm trying to see where the spread is. It looks like the leaders may start catching traffic in, I want to say maybe 8 laps time. No, sorry, not 8 laps time. Probably around 5 laps or so, depending, based off the rate we've currently gone at. So maybe they might be looking at trying to pit before they get to the lap traffic, or even after too. So there's a lot of factors involved. I remember DJ, particularly at Road America, was trying to fight. Oh, speaking of the pits, here comes Montello right in early stop.
Yeah, we should be right on the line of when you can pit to actually make it all the way to the end of the race. I calculated the pit window would open at 19 laps, and we are indeed right there. So that should be the LazyRocket car good to go till the end of the race. I'm also seeing a little bit of damage. Is that damage on the fin of that car at the top? Maybe just a little bit, but this is
that might be the
opening of our... Oh, okay. Okay, so that's just the opening of our pit stops. It looks like Colin Daner is also going to take the opportunity to do that, as is Nick Blue.
Yeah, so if you guys near the back of the grid going to be coming in for their stops initially, so they're going to be good to go till the end. Interesting seeing how other guys are going to play this out. And up ahead, look who's caught Jackson Robillard at Cyandra, and he's made up some solid time. The gap was sitting at around a little over 6 seconds last time we checked on him. Now it's down to 5.5, and he's now about to make a pass for 2nd place here.
Yeah, which means he's actually catching Paul Darling as well as Jackson Robillard. He's just got to make quick work of this, and he's in the right part of the track to make it happen. If he can even get a run down this front straightaway, or maybe out of turn 1, he could make the pass up through the S's and start to set his sights on his teammate. Robillard trying to break the draft. Look at the weaving.
Yeah, looking like they do in Indianapolis, weaving up and down the front straightaway here, trying to break the draft. Anything he could, because you're essentially a sitting duck. He's going to feel like one now, especially through the S's. Going to try to hold Andra at bay. They go side by side. Going to try to make him work the long way around here as they come flying onto the backstretch now. Who's going to be braver heading into the bus stop? Is Robillard going to yield? Is he going to stick to his guns? He is. Andra going to have to yield, and he will stay ahead.
Maybe he tries to set up for a good run out. No, it's not going to work, so it's probably going to be close to another lap. There's not a lot of passing opportunity between here and there once we get back to that point on the track on the next lap.
Yeah, very awesome stuff for Cyandra, and he's going to be a little bit frustrated, but even actually that time actually both of these cars made up time on Paul Darling, which is interesting to note.
I almost wonder if there's a little bit of PTSD going on in the 155 with Paul Darling. He made the same mistake twice at the beginning and the middle of the sprint race just a little bit ago. And his overall pace right now, as you mentioned, Robillard and Andra are running him down just a little bit, even though they're battling for position. Question is, maybe does Darling have a little bit of reprehension trying to push through that bus stop?
Yeah, I can't imagine that he did again, as you mentioned. It's the same mistake on 2 occasions last race, and that wasn't too long ago. So yeah, I think you're going to want to be just a little bit careful. That's going to cost you time being careful like that. So it's a very fine balancing act for Darling, and especially noting that your teammates coming up on you very quickly might put a little bit of pressure on him to try to go a little bit faster with him. That comes with a lot of risk. So race is winding down, but it's also getting very close up near the front. Potentially here, if Andrew can make a pass on through, is to come to the bus stop on another occasion. We got Mick Blue now up ahead. I don't think he'll be a factor. We'll have to see here as they come flying to the bus stop yet again side by side.
Carbon copy of last time through. Cyandra tucks in once again. Robillard doing a perfect job protecting in the only spot on the track where there's really a passing opportunity for somebody to make. If you don't make a mistake, you can really just defend into the bus stop and make it hard for everybody else. But Robillard doing a good job maintaining that second spot, leading the M category, we should say.
Yeah, And we'll see as he's going to make a over-under on Andrew. Both of them going to throw it up the inside of Mick Blue. Andrew wasn't able to do it. Robillard doing a great job of defending. Now they're actually starting to lose time. It was around 5 seconds that Robillard was back from. Now it's 6.5. So Andrew cannot afford to be stuck behind him any longer. You can actually see Carter Cundinger. He's starting to close back in on this battle again after Andrew kind of just passed him and took off.
Oh, he's pushing hard, too, throwing dirt on the exit of the heel of that boot. Jackson Robillard all the way up to the track limits. Now Andrew has a bit of a run. He shows the nose up the inside, has the preferred line. Robillard sweeps the outside, uses the downforce to his advantage, and keeps the point. But right now, Andrew is losing a ton of time. Look at that. Now it's 7 seconds.
He can't be a happy camper with this, losing up a lot of time to try to chase his teammate down. Going to get a little bit of a run heading down to turn 1, but this is going to be key. This exit off of turn 1. Now going to get the slipstream. He's tried on 2 occasions, hasn't been successful. Let's see if third time's a charm.
There might be some horse blinders going on here for Andrew because we know they're within the pit window to make it to the end of the race, and somehow he's still focused on making the pass on track. I think if he were to pit, he might be able to make up the ground on the pit stop cycle. But now he's going to force the issue into the bus stop, side by side between the two of them. Contact. Jackson Robillard runs wide, will pick up a cut penalty. Andrew still is not able to complete the pass.
No, and actually it looks like he's going to run wide. I'm not sure why he ran wide, if he was trying to give up some time for Robillard. But now here comes Carter Cundinger now trying to make a move on him. So this is not going well for Andrew. And as you mentioned, too, and this is what we talked about with the pit strategy, if you need to, make a pass on a guy ahead, especially if you start struggling 1, 2, 3 laps in a row, might be a good time to come into the pits. We'll see if he decides to do that.
I think he's got to at this point because we know that Andrew is close to a second faster on an open lap than Jackson Robillard, but he's choosing to force the issue on the racetrack rather than do it in the pit lane. If he were to pit now and get some open laps, he could easily probably make that pass. Easily probably. Words of the wise right there, but easily make the pass we would expect through the pit lane cycle.
Yeah, and I think what it might be going through his head, I think you mentioned it, that these cars very quick on light fuel. I think he wants to have the car as light as possible, run the tank to near empty on this current tank of fuel, then just fill up just as much as he is. He throws a pass up the inside and turn 1 will get through. Finally, past Jackson Robillard, he goes flying on through the grass, although now Robillard's going to be in back, going to have some slipstream, and there's another car in play here as well. We might see 3 wide if these guys are daring enough here. They are very close together.
Very well made. Jackson Robillard with the run. Whoa, they touch a little bit. 3 wide between the 3 of them. Cundinger up the outside. Andrew protects to the inside. They're going to go side by side into the entry, but now string out single file. Robillard falls 2 positions. Andrew finally makes up the spot into second.
Yeah, but at what cost? He's 9.9 seconds back after when this battle started. They were just over 5 seconds. It's almost doubled when the time it took for him to finally clear Jackson Robillard. And you said that the pit window opened up with, 19 laps left, so they can only go about 19 laps on fuel. So he's only going to be able to go for about 7 or so laps on this current tank of gas. He's really going to have to push like heck to try to catch back up or just make up some sort of gap back up on Darling. And I think with Darling, he can take maybe a little bit of a sigh of relief here with that gap expanding back out.
Yeah, certainly. And it just gives you peace of mind when you're in that rhythm of the race and now you see that your gap is 9.8 seconds. Even if you know Andrew is quicker than you, you have so much breathing room. As we now see on the left side of your screen, that time starts to tumble. He's taken out, what is that, close to 4/10 of a second just in the last sector of this lap.
Yeah, I'm curious really to see the next lap through when he's without any battling going on. That lap through was only 3/10 slower, and I think that was really the second half lap he was able to push. Now, from this lap on, to really get a chance to compare these two. Take a look at some other battles going on around the track after some great action up near the front. Kyle Lamb trying to work on Cody Meadows. This is a battle for 9th place brewing between these two, and Lamb struggling a little bit in race number 1. Start all the way back in 17th, was just out of that invert window, and has moved himself up into 10th, looking at 9th.
I'm pretty sure we saw Lamb have 2 incidents on the opening lap and fall to the back twice. So this is a good recovery drive for the 42, now trying to get by on Meadows. Shabelski just in front of them hit the pit lane, so that is another driver starting to pit. We're basically center of the race right now, right in the midpoint.
Yeah, and Corey Bunch also heading to pit road as well. So more and more drivers, as you mentioned, are just at halfway coming into the pits. Here comes Lamb with a great run coming onto the backstretch, heading towards the bus stop. We'll see between these two guys. So far, so good with side-by-side battles into the bus stop. They will keep it clean for Lamb, not able to work his way on through. Take back a look at the battle up near the front. Just trying to look at these guys as now they finally come back around for Paul Darling. Last lap through, he ran a 131.8, pretty much a 131.9. Or Cyandra working his way past the line now, 132 flat. So it was actually 1/10 slower.
That's wildly fast. They qualified, pole time was at 132.4. So that is just goes to show how much faster the car gets without fuel in it. And I do think it's smart for most people to run it as empty as it can get, but I don't agree necessarily with Cyandra's decision to stay out as long as he did, because we saw he lost that 4 seconds in that whole exchange.
Yeah, that might honestly that decision to keep battling with Robillard on the track after the pit window open, I think that might have cost him the race here. You still have to keep an eye on the race, still very much young. More guys coming down to pit road. Murphy Nichols. Actually, I think this is his second stop, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Nichols and Meadows both from 10th and 11th onto the pit lane.
Oh, maybe no. Oh, no. Sorry, I was thinking of Colin Daner in a yellow car. That's what I was thinking of. Came down pit road earlier. Let's see here. Not a whole lot of battles going on the track. Some guys separated now with pit stops going on. Taking a look back at Jackson Robillard, still running in 4th place. Pretty solid day for him.
And look who's just behind. DJ Alessandrini did decide to rejoin. Whoa, big moment for Robillard. So Alessandrini's back on the track. He's 2 laps down, so he won't really be a factor tonight, but trying to do everything he can to get championship points.
Hey man, that's what it comes down to. You know, a lot of people get very discouraged, and you know, some of them will leave the session with a car that can, you know, still run. It's not going to run well, but it'll still run, and even with internet issues too. And you know, just if you're going for a championship, you need every point you can get. And you know, it sucks, especially being in a position like this, knowing you really can't do anything too much in his position. He's just really, as you mentioned, he's just kind of hoping on cars just crashing out. He can just pick up 1 or 2 spots here and there. But points racing's point racing. You got to make up every point you can. And these guys do have drop races to use. That being said, you want to use as least amount as possible in an occasion like this. This will probably most likely be one of DJ's drops. But
Yeah,
again,
certainly.
in case something else goes awry later in the season, you don't want to make this be a worse result if you just decided to leave. So nice to see. I enjoy seeing drivers getting back to it. Sucks, but you got to soldier on with what you're given. So DJ going to continue on in 19th place. Let's see.
Absolutely. So on the pit cycle, I think, is it Mo Islam is the top driver that has pit? Is that accurate?
Yeah, it looks like it. Yeah, everyone else in behind has come in, except for Eric Brown, but everyone else in behind him has made a pit stop. So Mo Islam doing well in 8th. Ryan in behind in the 144 also has come in. Both those drivers' teammates right in behind one another. So they're going to continue on, and let's see, it's about, Mo Islam actually spent, no, he spent the right amount of time, around 38, 36 seconds while we're looking to be that pit delta. Speaking of drivers coming down, here comes Carter Cundinger.
The Cundinger is right on the line of Mo Islam actually surpassing him in the pit cycle. Keep a close eye on where they come in and out of the pit lane, and it's going to be down to kind of the nitty-gritty on whether or not they get the quick pit stop or the slow pit stop from the iRacing service, by my math.
As Carter gets his service to his machine, taking a look, and this gap has not really fallen. A little bit to my surprise. Actually, it's fallen a little bit.
Very, very slightly, but you can see just how hard Andra is pushing all the way out to the barriers on the exit of the outer loop, and that's very, very risky because there's a big elevation change there when you cross under those curbs. So he's taken it down maybe a 1 second, but barely.
He's putting his fastest laps of the race. His best lap was 131.685. His last lap, which was I think had an off track, which is why it's not his fastest lap, was a 131.681. He's running consistently really fast laps, but he's going to need to go faster because Darling's still putting in 32 flats, which at the rate they're going at is not going to be enough.
It's just the gift of starting on the front row versus the 8th row between the two of them, I think. But either way, Darling, it'll be nice and satisfying to come home with that top spot. Both drivers, teammates in the pit lane. Yeah,
so coming in as one group, you can also see Robillard and still do have these guys still can go on for a little bit longer, but they're I think everyone's deciding to come in. That was a decent time to come into the pit, so Robillard will come in as well. Derek Robel will be the only driver we're waiting on to make his pit stop, and he will come in this lap as well. Where's Carter Cundinger in all this? We'll right on board with him. He's going to be flying past the start-finish straight this time. Darling's out of his stall and out off of pit road as Cundinger comes flying down the start-finish straight. So here he ends up in relation to Andrew, who's now just left pit road.
Yeah, so Cundinger should come out in 3rd, so we'll have 3 dark blue cars in the top 3. There we are. Mo Islam picks up another spot on that cycle through. Is that up to 5th? Yes.
Yeah, is running in 5th place, so solid run for him. There's Jackson that just came flying past the screen there. 2.8 seconds up the road. Also, funny thing for Mo Islam, I've ran into him with week 13 going on. I ran into him in 3 completely different practice servers. It was when you and me were in the same session with the 87 stock cars at South Boston. He was in that server. I joined a practice for GT3s at Hockenheim. He was in that one. And then just today I was in a GT4 practice server, and he was in that one as well at Hockenheim.
So did you figuratively or literally run into him?
Oh no, I didn't run into him, but I hope not. I hope I don't run into him. Keep it nice and respectful. Cool. But yeah, it was just weird. I just saw his name pop up through. I was like, it's like following me all over the place, or I guess I'm following him all over the place with the Week 13 content. Also, the surprise drop from the McLaren today, absolutely out of nowhere.
Definitely been a lot of fun for new stuff, new updates, trying new things in the service. I know I've been playing plenty.
These guys come flying on through. Top few guys separated by quite a bit. Actually, looking back at the gap, it's fallen decent to 6 seconds.
Yeah, I was noticing that as well. It cut almost 2 seconds out between, 2.5 between the top 2, Andra and Darling, in the pit cycle to Cyandra's favor, I should say. So now that it's down to almost about 6 seconds. So that means mathematically, Cyandra only needs to go 3/4 of a second faster every single lap, maybe, to catch up to Darling.
Yeah, that's a tall ask though to go that much faster than an already fast driver. It's a really tall order, but I think Andrew's gonna push. Oh, he's really gonna push, goes flying out towards the wall. That's a very dangerous line to run, running over the curves like that. But you can see he's pushing every single inch that he can to catch up to Darling.
Pushing so hard. Darling is also into a little bit of lap traffic, but not significant traffic, not enough to slow his roll. As you can see, he's actually already made his way by Mick Blue.
A little bit of a battle going further on back. It's the 144 Ryan Clawell chasing down Colin Daner. He's been having a fairly quiet race for him in 10th. You can see him trying to break down the draft, swerving down the back stretch into the bus stop.
Got to avoid that second curb so you don't go flying, as we saw Paul Darling do and a number of others. Sorry, Paul, not to call you out individually.
It was funny.
Are definitely the closest battle on the track.
It's a little funny. Paul's not probably playing funny, but I was looking, and while we were on break, I was looking in the race chat. I was just looking on through. I just saw Darling put that he really doesn't like the bus stop. And I honestly don't blame him after getting into like that. And I'm sure he's kind of wishing we had the newer version of Watkins Glen, where the curbing's a little bit forgiving, a lot less grass to deal with. Just massive curbs that you do need to be respectful of, but it's less for that grass to catch you out like that. So I'm sure also Kyle is also waiting for that rescan. That'll never come at this rate.
Also curious to see the battle between Dominic Dornberg and Anthony Montello. They're kind of within touch of each other, but Montello's pace seems to be struggling a bit. I do still wonder if there's some damage on that car. The fin on the passenger side looks a little bit off. He is dropping back pretty quickly from Dominic Dornberg, so I think the pace on the number 24 is struggling a bit.
You're talking about the shark fin, right? That connects to the rear wing?
Yes.
Looks pretty good. I mean, maybe there could be damage that we're not seeing, but I think this car looks in pretty decent shape. I think he might just not have the same fire he had in race number 1. I mean, he's kind of actually around where he finished, if I'm not mistaken. I think finished in 7th in race 1. He's running in 8th.
Yeah, his pace has dropped off about 2 seconds from where he had been running. So there's something going on there, whether it's fatigue or damage, I'm not sure. But he's falling back actually closer into the clutches of Kyle Lamb, who's just behind him.
Yeah, his last lap was actually, really not good. 136 fly. I think just made a mistake. So let's see if he picks up the pace. Otherwise, Lamb, you can see coming out as well. Lamb and a few other drivers. You got Lamb, Daner, and Clavel. We were looking at that battle earlier. So it's now a 3-car battle for 9th place. So potentially 4 if they catch up to Montello.
Yeah, they're working their way pretty closely there. Montello's been lapping in the high 35s and then that 136. So he's certainly struggling on pace for some reason.
Speaking of pace, looking at Paul Darling, 132.5. Looks like he's taking it a little bit easier through these last 2 parts. But while he's been taking it easy, Andrew's still been pushing 139.9 for him. It was 0.6 faster. That gap just hovering at 5 seconds. It's getting awfully close.
It's getting closer and pretty quickly too. You can just see the body language when we change cameras from one car to the other, just how much harder Syandra is pushing and working that car. And it's going to be right on the line. He's got so much further to go, but it's at least a heck of a drive, I should say.
Yeah, if he catches the rate he's going, he should, at least try to get the draft. Maybe he can have him with 1-2 to go if he's lucky. But he's going to have to continue this on. And you can imagine the amount of concentration he's got in the car right now, making up this time.
Well, remember, he started from the back in qualifying because of internet connection issues. And then he started again at the back because of racing issues. So he's just got to have a fire underneath of him as Anthony Montello goes for a big spin in the bus stop. Whoa! Number of cars avoiding. Self-induced.
Yeah, I don't see anyone near him, and it was that same curve that has caught, I think 4 or 5 drivers out tonight. And whoa, Dana's actually lagged out at the perfect time. He was able to avoid that. Oh no! And I think actually it was Chris Hudson that hit the tire barriers trying to avoid him. And he's had a pretty miserable night for Hudson. Actually, is Hudson.
Lidke that caught him there.
Oh, yes, I think that was, yeah. Hudson didn't start that. Yeah, that was Drew Lidke. Thank you.
There he is.
Running in 15. Not a good night for the 121 either. Hudson has retired this race in 21st place. And DJ, actually, we're talking about him, sticking it out. He actually was able to gain 1 spot up into 18th for him.
There you go. And he's on the same lap as Mick Blue, who's sitting on pit lane, so he might actually pick up 1 more spot, this time across the start-finish line. There he is.
Yep, and so DJ will be in now 17th position. And he will, I think, have to make 1 split. I think he might have to come in for a splash or something, or he maybe could try to save a little bit here, but again, not that it's going to matter a whole lot. I think for Montello, he's going to be out of this for the rest of the race. Looking back at our leaders gap now, 4.7 seconds. Only made up about 0.2 last time through for Syandra. It's been going back and forth.
Yeah, I think at this point it's stagnated enough that without a major incident for Darling, knock on wood for his sake, that won't happen. I think this is pretty much locked in for those 2 teammates to come home in the top 2. Which would, again, maintain only 4 drivers having won anything in this championship this entire season for LazyRocket Prototype Challenge. But the battle for much further back in the pack, Daner, Lamb, Caldwell in 8th. That one's really the tightest one on the track.
Yeah, we saw this brewing for quite a while. They started according together a lot more over the last few laps. Let's see if anyone's got anything here, anything that's left to say, at least in these few laps. We talked about the aero wash, especially in the 2nd and 3rd sectors is really where it comes into play through the boot and whatnot. But through this first sector, coming down the front straightaway and then after through the S's, you can really get a really big slipstream, and that's where it can help you out. So help you out to make a pass, and just if not, just close the gap. As you see, Cloud will get very close to the back of Lamb.
Yeah, huge corner speed in turn 1, and now is within drafting distance, but they're within close enough to Daner that I think Lamb is still getting a little bit of draft help as well, so I think that's hurting Caldwell's chances at getting a run down into the bus stop. Sure enough, they stay single file this time through, so it might take a mistake from Lamb or maybe even losing the draft from Daner.
Yeah, Lamb running a little bit wide of the exit of the bus stop, almost clips the grass on exit. Cloud trying to make up ground for a pass. Not quite able to get it done. We'll stick in single file, as you mentioned. Also, Mo Islam too catching up to Jackson Robo. It is a battle for 4th place. It was round 2, a little over 2 seconds after pit stops have finished. And now here they come. And the closing laps is going to be pretty tight between these two. We'll see who's going to be that 4th place finisher between both of them. Rollbar's been pretty good. So has Mo Islam. I would say Islam's probably been the faster of the two.
Yeah, Robillard feeling the pressure. He went all the way to the pit wall down the front straightaway and then came back for the preferred line in turn 1. Mo Islam is within drafting distance, not quite within super close striking distance or anything like that yet, but 4 laps to go. Certainly, it's got to be Robillard that's feeling a little bit attacked at this point.
Oh, as we say that, the pressure went to Mo Islam on that occasion. He actually went out wide, might have picked up a cut course for that as well, making a trip through the grass. Luckily, he didn't get a jump and might have had to come down to pit road to fix it. We saw Darling have to in race number 1, but lost some time, so have to try to make that up here in these closing laps.
Yeah, certainly picked up a cup penalty. You see him drop way back, but now the 144, Ryan Caldwell looking really racy on the back of Kyle Lamb. Still quite nowhere to go with it. Looks to the outside, Lamb protects to the inside. We've seen pretty much 100% success rate protecting from the inside there.
Yeah, I think he's not going to throw it too hard, at least until the white flag. We'll see if that'll change things around. Kyle getting a little twitchy in behind. Wants to get flying fast. Kyle maybe have a chance at Daner, and Daner, I think, is enjoying this. He's being able to drive away from it as these two guys battle it out. And going back up to Robillard and Mo Islam as their fight continues. And actually, we'll even take a look at our leaders just for a little bit here with 3 laps to go. Paul Darling, Cy Andrew at 4.3 seconds the gap. Gotta give an effort for Andrew. He's continued to push. He hasn't given up, even if it looks like he might not get it done. He's been pushing consistently. And I was a little bit worried, considering how hard he was pushing, that he was going to make a mistake. So far, it's been really solid aggressive driving.
Yeah, I think he's just so in the zone, just pushing really, really hard. But Darling has really responded well and has stabilized that gap at about 4.5 seconds between the two of them. I wouldn't be surprised if it's under 4 seconds by the end of this race, but I don't think it's going to be nearly as close as it could be. There's the visual gap between the two, and Andra is still just lighting the world on fire with his lap times.
Yeah, you can see right there a little bit of a short straightaway between them. And next time by, Darling will be seeing 2 laps to go. He's got a lap car to deal with, and after that, I think has some decently smooth sailing up ahead if he can just make it through the next 2 laps in one piece. It's been night and day difference for him between race 1 and race 2. Darling, we saw 2 mistakes in race 1 here. He's not made a single mistake, at least from what we've seen on the broadcast so far. Again, knock on wood.
Yeah, done a really picture-perfect job. 2 laps to go right now, and doesn't have any really pressure to make a mistake, so he can kind of take his time, stay in his rhythm. Now that he's gone through the bus stop at least 20 times with no mistakes, you got to imagine it's pretty much muscle memory at this point. You see him just picture-perfect on the curbs. These cars very uncompliant over those curves, I must say. You got to plan ahead for him in a big way, and he sweeps through under Eric Brown at the perfect time.
Yeah, and Eric Brown, too, pole sitter for this race after the invert, running back in 15th. And Darling had some decently clean racetrack up ahead. Cy Andrew now a gap under 4 seconds for him as he's working on Colin Daner. Oh, and actually, he's working on Colin Daner. Daner had a big issue all the way back into 16th. We were just talking about him in that battle with Lamb and Cladwell. Not sure what happened to him, but he was running up for 8th. He's all the way back here, so that's unfortunate to see for him after such a strong run.
Yeah, a self-induced incident you have to expect because he was pretty clear of those two. Caldwell now is putting the pressure on Kyle Lamb pretty well. worked his way back, and Mo Islam is also clawing his way back within striking distance of Jackson Robillard. They're within almost a half a second of each other.
Take a look at both these guys here. As these two here, they've got, I believe they got 2 laps to go. Go up near the front of the field. Paul Darlings, he's taking the white flag. 1 more lap to go for him. Take a look at Mo Islam and Jackson Robillard. They're now flying towards the start-finish line now. For Islam, he's only going to have really 1 more shot here if he can get close enough. He's a little bit too far. Whoa, almost flying into the tire barriers.
Sure did. And we also saw Ryan Caldwell make a big mistake in the bus stop, almost went 4 off exiting, and so he will drop off the back of Kyle Lamb pretty significantly. But Mo Islam, I don't think he's going to be close enough. I think he's a little bit too far out of the draft for Jackson Robillard, which means Robillard will take the win not only in AM, if he stays where he is, but beat a number of the pro drivers. Almost half the pro field.
Yeah, pretty much with a 4th place finish. I'm sure he's going to feel pretty happy with that. As they head through the bus stop, I think it's going to clear any worries for him. And actually, these guys are getting pretty close to Carter Cundinger as well. I think Cundinger made a big mistake, 135.2 for his last lap. He's just able to stay ahead of these 2 in behind, so he'll secure that final podium spot. Also, looking here, this battle between Lamb and Kyle getting very close here as both of them go flying off of turn 1. They've been abusing that runoff.
Trying to see if what happened to the Cundinger. Can't quite find it, but you're right. They're really getting close. The battle for 3rd is kind of on.
Yeah, even the battle for 8th place is on. You see Cladwell trying to get on through. There's a spin out of the bus. So we'll see if it's in the way for both these guys approaching. Oh, it's just out of the way. It's Cladwell's going to throw it up the inside of the carousel. Meanwhile, up near the front, it was Paul Darling and Cyandra that took the checkered flag. Very close for them, surprisingly. I think they formed up for the finish. Sorry, I didn't catch that, as this battle is getting very hot.
Whoa, they wrecked! Lamb shuts the door.
And they wreck for 7th place with Lamb going to be the winner from that. Not sure if he's going to be too happy with taking it that way. Up near the front for 3rd and 4th place, it was Carter Cundinger and Jackson Robillard that came through in that order, with Mo Islam finishing back in 5th. It's actually a closer gap than I was expecting for those 2.
That incident between Lamb and Caldwell actually promoted Corey Bunch up into 8th place, and Bunch is within striking distance of Lamb as they're working their way through the final bits of this lap. Now into turn number 9. Lamb potentially having some damage on that car after that major contact between the 2. The 93 of Bunch is your championship leader in the M category. Can he do anything with it? I don't think so.
Now we'll see 1 more corner. It looks like for Lamb, his car is going to be just enough intact for him to keep that 7th spot. Bunch is going to finish back in 8th, but up near the front, Darling and Andrew are finishing 1 and 2. Those teammates going to be happy with one another. Andrew going to probably be just a little bit disappointed of what could have been after another night of struggling to work through the field after we saw what he was able to do at Road America. Very similar story for him tonight as well.
Yeah, and it's also reminiscent of Daytona, so we hope maybe the last 4 rounds. We got rounds 7, 8, 9, and 10 coming up on some international tracks, actually. Maybe Cyandra can make the strike later on. Also, heartbreak for DJ Alessandrini, who did circulate all the way to the checkered flag, came home in 17th as a championship contender. But Paul Darling was the championship leader coming into tonight. He will extend that lead leaving tonight. Actually, I lied. Alessandrini was the championship leader, so Darling will undoubtedly take that back.
Going through your race results again, Paul Darling, Cyandra, 1-2 finish for those teammates. Carter Cundinger, big mistakes for him, almost putting him back in the battle for 4th and 5th. Was able to just stay ahead of them. Robillard in 4th place, your AM class winner, as well as a few others. Saw Kyle Lamb with a contact with Cladwell. Cladwell going to finish back in 10th. I'm sure he's going to be not too terribly happy with the 42 machine. Tick over to the next page, results. Brian Shabelski finishing in 11th, Lidkey in 12th. Saw Lidkey have a bit of an incident hitting the tire barrier after trying to avoid Anthony Montallo in the bus stop. Just looking at some guys that struggle here, you saw DJ. That was really anything that he could have done, except blame his internet. Hopefully he also doesn't have AT&T. Otherwise that'd be a very weird coincidence, wouldn't it? And then looking out to the next page too, just looking at 20th place, Ryan Plourde. We saw him spin in the opening lap when got launched to orbit in the S's, and he struggled tonight, even struggled getting back on the track. So it's probably a night to forget for the 74, and then Chris Hudson finishing in 21st. But we got some drivers to talk to, and I say let's talk to Carter Cundinger first. Carter, you got a copy?
Gotcha.
Hey Carter, we saw you working your way through the order, trying to keep in touch with Paul Darling and Cyange up in front, but unfortunately, they were just a little bit too fast.
I mean, those guys just have some insane pace in this car, and I mean, I'd like to think that I'm quick, but compared to those guys, I am just I'm just so slow compared to them. But yeah, I mean, honestly, it was a good night, and able to work my way through the invert once again. Still trying to see, what is going to be the most amount of positions I'm going to gain on lap 1 of an invert. So I think tonight I went from 15th to 6th, which is up there, but definitely not my highest gain during one lap. But overall, I mean, it was a fun race. 2 podiums tonight. I couldn't ask for anything more.
Yeah, and actually, also, if you can just kind of walk us through what happened on lap 1. We caught a few of the incidents, but not sure how you managed to carve your way through it. I mean, that was pretty solid. If you can, I guess, give any of your tips that how you're able to survive through that.
Well, I mean, honestly, especially with the most recent update that just came out, they made the smoke a lot denser. So honestly, avoiding wrecks is a lot harder now than it was before. But really, I mean, all it comes down to is, understanding hey, there's a caution up ahead. So I got off the gas basically for every single wreck that was in front. Just made sure to see, who was where and what, and then just picked a line and went for it. And that got me through the 2 wrecks, both in the S's and in the chute. And yeah, I mean, that's honestly really all it takes to get through wrecks like that. So just a little secret, I guess, as to how I somehow am able to do these inverts so well.
Yeah, definitely paid out for you really well. Congrats to you on your solid 3rd place finish, Carter.
Yeah, guys.
Alright, and with that, we'll go next to Cyandra. And Cy, man, you really love starting from the back, at least in the races I broadcast. We saw a very similar situation for you at Road America. You were able to also finish in the top 3 on that occasion. Was just shy of the win here. What went wrong?
Well, I wouldn't say anything went wrong. I think I was just too nice to people getting past them. I spent a couple laps behind Jackson, I spent a couple laps behind Carter, and I should have just sent it. But I was being too nice to them. I knew them too well. At least Jackson was in the same voice chat as me, so I couldn't be too aggressive. But besides that, I mean, it's good hard racing, and that's what I really like about this series.
Yeah, and also talking about that battle, do you think, looking back, do you think that it would have been better for you to, come down pit road and pit and maybe get out of sequence, or was that not an option for you?
I saw Carter do that, and honestly, I should have done that earlier. And that was the right call in hindsight, but honestly, I was just having so much fun, I just completely forgot about it.
Well, I definitely saw you having a lot of fun. You were pushing. I'm pretty sure you had the fastest lap of this race. Yeah, you did with a 131.6. But it was a very solid drive for you, very entertaining for us to see you come claw from the back, especially on lap 1. What position were you by the end of lap 1?
I believe I was right behind Carter, so I think 8th.
Yeah, that was really impressive considering you started all the way back in 19th. So very solid job for you, Cy. Hopefully better luck to you in the upcoming races for a win.
Thank you.
All right, and with the race, last but not least, your race winner. And race number 2 winner, Paul Darling in the 155. Paul, another solid drive for you, just getting it done, especially after what happened in race 1.
Yeah, race 1 was, my crew put in something new in the car. They didn't tell me what it would do, but they said pull it, and I pulled it, and it turns out it was an e-brake. So it really spun me around in the bus stop there, so it got me all turned around.
Yeah, we saw what happened to you in the bus stop. It was really unfortunate. Did you, do anything different for race number 2 to avoid any similar incidents?
Yeah, I acted like it had COVID, kept the 6-foot distance to it. Tried to stay very far away from it.
But yeah, no, looking on for the rest of the season, especially these last year races, any other races you think you got a good chance of getting win at?
Hopefully all of them, but we'll see. DJ Sai, and then there's been a lot of people actually that have been showing some really good pace. Carter's been showing a lot of good pace in the last few races, so it should be fun.
Yeah, definitely look for it. I like that answer, trying to win it all. Let's see if you can get it done, Paul. Thanks for talking to us.
Very much, guys.
Alright, and with that, that's going to wrap up interviews here from Watkins Glen. I got to say, pretty solid race overall. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see a true battle up near the front, but definitely some really good battles throughout the rest of the field.
Yeah, definitely always exciting here for the Prototype Challenge series, and heading towards what we mentioned is a fairly international end to the season. We have, I think, Road Atlanta next weekend, and then we head all the way around the world for Monza, Spa, and Le Mans to end up the season. So I think it's a fairly unfamiliar rounding out of the season, and it'll be a lot of fun to watch.
Indeed, looking forward to it. But for now, I'm Finn Yakuna here with Tom and Gordon. We're going to be signing out for tonight. Round 6 of Watkins Glen. Fantastic race. Tune in next week for the next round of the SCRS LazyRocket Prototype Challenge. Thank you for watching.